Welcome to Popternative, where we dive into topical discussions from the worlds of pop culture, social media, and sports. Here is your host, Peter Remoliotis, aka PD Beats.
Hello and welcome to the Popternative podcast, the podcast and talk show where we have digital discussions from the worlds of TV, film, pop culture, social media, news, sports, music, everything really. We talk about it all, depending on the guest here on Popternative. As always, I'm your host, Peter Remoliotis. On social media, you know me as PD Beats. My guest is an actor whose movie is going to be slated to be coming out in November called Last 3 Days. We are with Robert Palmer Watkins. Robert, welcome to Popternative, man.
Hello, thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
We've been wanting to do this for a while, and it's just patience is a virtue, man. We got it done.
That's right. We got it done. Thank you for having me on, man.
I mean, right off the bat, for people who've kind of seen trailers for the last 3 days, I mean, it just looks like a very fun, unique kind of action film. We don't know what's going on. There's some sci-fi thrown in there. It just looks like a good time all around.
It is. It's a hell of a ride. We shot this movie like 3 years ago. There was a lot of things that went into, getting it released, especially with an action movie where you've got special effects and you've got all types of post you got to do. But we're really, really excited with how it turned out. They've really done a good job with the post editing and everything. But yeah, it's a fun movie, man. It's definitely a on the edge of your seat kind of ride.
It's an interesting time right now with the abundance of content that's out there right now, and a lot of opportunities for, actors like yourself and the directors and writers of films like Last 3 Days, because there's a lot of options to get this movie out there. You know what I mean? There's a lot of these new streaming platforms and everything. What do you kind of think about the current landscape of kind of making this film? And there's more opportunities than you would think.
Yeah, I mean, it's an interesting thing. Like I always talk about this with other actor friends or other producer friends. It's like I'm also writing a comedy show right now with some of my friends, and it's amazing because there's so many different ways to have a project released. There's streaming, there's cable, there's digital, there's iTunes, there's so many different ways. So there's so many different platforms, but then at the same time, that means there's so many different platforms for everybody to be pitching their products. So it's like, now it's like you get a show picked up on one of these platforms or a movie picked up on one of these platforms. It's a win, but like it's competing with, triple the amount of stuff it was before if it would have been picked up when there wasn't all these different options.
Yeah, so absolutely.
It's kind of like it's a catch-22, but I think it's awesome. I think right now with what's happening in our world with the pandemic, I think these streaming platforms are the way to go. Nobody's going to the movie theaters right now. And everybody's at home bored and they're looking for stuff to watch. So I'm really grateful that I wanted this movie to come out 2 years ago, but I'm glad that it's happening now because I think there's going to be more people that are like, oh, this is cool. What's this?
But here's the thing. This is going to be like a movie that's going to be VOD, like video, that's going to be available on demand, right? Video on demand. And a lot of those movies, straight to Blu-ray, DVD, you know what I mean? There was kind of one option for them, you know what I mean? People kind of bought the Blu-ray and everything. Now there's a lot of opportunities for these movies because, it's going to be available on demand, right, for quite some time. And then who knows, there's going to be, like, it might end up on a streaming platform depending on the distribution. So the possibilities are endless for the film too.
Right. Yeah. So it's being released on iTunes and Apple first on November 13th. So if you're listening to this, please go pre-order it now. It drops on November 13th. And then I believe it's going to be on there for the first month or so. And then I think there's options to go other places. But yeah, I mean, hopefully it lands on all of them eventually. I think that's the goal. But Apple and iTunes is where we're launching it, which is exciting because that's amazing. That's a big one,
Oh, for sure. People who are watching the show might recognize you from a specific show. I don't know if you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
But you were on General Hospital for quite some time.
Yeah, I was on there for almost 3 years, and I played Dylan Quartermain. And I actually was on there from 2015 to basically the end of 2017.
A lot of episodes.
Yeah, almost 200 episodes. It's an amazing journey. Definitely one of my bigger career breaks thus far in my acting career. Opened a lot of doors. I actually booked Last 3 Days, the movie we're talking about, towards the end of my stint at General Hospital. So it was kind of cool because I was filming General Hospital and the last 3 days at the same time. So yeah, I mean,
now as Dylan Quartermain, like, you know, you're on for a certain amount of episodes and stuff. Is it kind of like is it case by case basis where like you get a role on a soap opera and you're not sure? Like, do you sometimes know if it's like a 2-season run or like a 50 episode run? Is it kind of one of those things where they don't know what they're gonna do with your character? Like, does that, like, what's the landscape of like soap operas like for that stuff?
Soap operas are definitely a different beast. I mean, because, you know, it's one of the only genres or mediums that's it's running all year long, and it's 5 days a week. So there's not really breaks. So the storylines are thought out, you know, months ahead of time. And we shoot, you know, you could shoot between 2 to 3 episodes a day. And then those episodes that you're shooting, they'll air 5 weeks from now, you know? So
Wow.
It's a very quick turnaround. It's very fast paced. So it's a different beast for sure. Totally different type of medium than I've ever worked on before. Totally different than commercials or film, you know. But it's really cool. Once you get in the swing of things, it's almost like doing theater, because it's like you get on stage, you get like 1 take, maybe 2 takes if you're lucky, you know. And it's like you go through the scene. But I think what was the main question that you were asking about that though?
More about, like, you know, there's a lot of characters that get written off, or, you know, they were just brought on for like 100 episodes. I just want to kind of know more about that. But you answered it though.
No, I mean, to sum it up, basically, I kind of went off track there a little bit, but they're the soap world is very, very, very supportive, and it's thick. There's a huge soap.
They're very passionate.
Very passionate. They are so supportive.
You see it on your social media. The Dylan Quartermain fans are here to stay.
Oh yeah, they're amazing. They're like family. I feel like I've got like thousands of new, you know, uncles and nieces and grandmas now because of that show. But they're secretive though. When you're auditioning for a soap opera, because the fan base is so in tune with what's going on, they are more secretive about the role you're going in for. So when I went in for this role, they had just like a generic scene. It wasn't even a scene that I ended up doing on the show. It was a generic scene, and it was a different name. Now, you do know if you're going in for a series regular, which means like you're going to be on contract for 2 or 4 years. You do know that. Or if you're just going on as like a guest or recurring or 13 episodes. You know that type of stuff, but you don't know much about the character. You don't know much about your storyline. And at any point in time, even if you get a contract role, you know, every 6 months, they have the option to release you or not. So it's all kind of up in the air. Soaps change daily. The stories change. They're moving super fast. So
yeah, I find it interesting too, because I've interviewed a lot of people that are on, you know, shows that were on like CW and Netflix, where they were like they came out week by week, and they knew that they were signed on for just 1 season and their character wouldn't show up for every seasons. But like the audience didn't know that until it actually like happens, like at the end. So like I feel like that is a difficult thing for the actor too. Like the show is done, they know it's just 1 season, everyone's kind of falling in love with their character, and then it's just like they know it's like one and done type thing. Like I just find it's an interesting landscape with a lot of that too.
Yeah, no, totally. It's a totally different beast, I'm telling you.
Absolutely. Whether you've been working for like 1 year or 10 years, every project, there's always going to be learning experiences. It's always going to happen. We're always learning. You know what I mean? Okay. For Robert Palmer Watkins, what were some learning experiences with last 3 days?
Well, I mean, I was coming from the soap world for, you know, the past few years before I did that. So it was kind of jumping back into a project where you do get multiple takes, and there is a lot more waiting around, and there is a lot more, you know, when you're doing a scene, it's like, okay, we're going to get the wide shot, and then we're going to get the 1 shot, and then we're going to get your 1 shot, and then we're going to get an insert of the hand, and then we're, you know, it's a lot more detailed, and there's a lot more time taken on each scene, which is beautiful in some ways. It can also be draining in some ways. So it's there's pros and cons to both processes, I think. So that was that was interesting for me to switch back into that world where it's like, oh yeah, we really have time to like really make sure we got this scene and we really dissected these characters, you know? Whereas in the soap world, it's kind of like, you better come to set knowing what you're doing and knowing your character already. And you better, you know what I mean? It's already planned out. Not to say one is not to say one is better than the other, but it's just a different process. And then also, I think one of the coolest thing, I mean, playing any different character I play, I think the coolest parts of playing that character is just learning a new skill or a new trade. Like, I mean,
yeah, absolutely.
On General Hospital, I played, Dylan Quartermain is a director, filmmaker, photographer. So I got to play around with cameras and, filming equipment. And then, last 3 days I play an undercover cop and I got to do gun work and stunts and fighting. And we had a cop on set, teaching me how a cop would hold a gun versus just a hunter or a civilian. Cops hold things a certain way. So I think just learning whatever character I'm playing, whether it's last 3 days or General Hospital or whatever, I think that's always fun, is just to learn something new. If I get to play a surfer or if I get to play a mountain climber, like, you're just always learning a new skill. And you don't really have to choose to be that for the rest of your life, but now you have that kind of on your resume, I guess.
Is that a Volcom shirt you're wearing?
I think it is, yeah.
Yeah, so because you said surfing, so it just reminded me of the surf skate culture, and I saw the Volcom, I'm like, oh my god. This is a question you probably get all the time, then, but I have to ask it because I feel like I must ask it. Have you ever thought about going back to soap operas?
Yeah, I mean, never say never. It was a great experience for me. It was a consistent job as an actor. I was working at the time.
People sometimes forget that it's a job, right?
Yeah, it's a job, and it's not always easy to get a job as an actor, and it's a very, very competitive industry I've chosen to be a part of, and I love it. You have to love it if you're going to do it. But there are times, there's when every job ends, every job finishes. You're playing a character, even if the show is a huge hit, like a Breaking Bad.
Yeah.
The story ends, and then those actors got to find more work.
Yeah.
So I'm never going to say never, because that would just be silly. And I had nothing but good experiences on that show, and getting paid consistently and working consistently and getting to just work the artistic muscles daily was amazing. I'm really excited with my current projects and the stuff that I've filmed over the past couple of years since I've left the soap. Mm-hmm. So that's kind of what I'm focused on right now. I'm not really thinking about going back to a soap at this point in time. Yeah. But again, never say never.
Well, it's pretty funny too. You mentioned about like it's hard to find a job as an actor, and I find shows get released, people watch the show, people fall in love with the show, and then they announce that they're not they cancel, like the series got canceled, and like the fans are like devastated, but it's kind of like, no, like the cast members and the creators are the ones that are like more devastated because that means they don't have a job.
Right.
You know what I mean? Yeah. Like it's pretty like the more you kind of have conversations with people like yourself on like on my show when I talk to you, you really dive into like there's a lot to kind of uncover with a life of kind of working as like a storyteller, because I call you guys storytellers because that's what you do, right? So it's an interesting dynamic. It's not always easy.
Well, yeah, I mean, people think that, oh, you're living in the Hollywood limelight, and then once you're on a show, like, you made it and you're rich, and like it's hopefully if you continue working hard and you get some successes, you climb up the ladder and you get bigger and you get on bigger shows and you get paid more and you keep climbing and work begets work. So like,
and it's not a given, like, oh, like they know you from this, you're gonna get this. Like, it doesn't work that way.
No, I mean, there's still at this point in my career, I've been on several shows, and I do have somewhat of a following now, and there's still things that I have to audition for. Like, until you get to Tom Cruise or Brad Pitt's level, people aren't just sending scripts to you. You're not just getting offers. You still got to fight for it. And there are times where I think what I've learned, over the course of the pandemic, is what's really important is to just stay working.
Yeah.
Even if it's something you're creating with your friends or you're writing on your own, or like, I'm working on music right now. I've got some original songs I'm about to do some music videos for. I'm writing a comedy. Yeah, I'm writing a comedy series with my some of my roommates, and I think that's. I mean, there's just if you can create your own shit, do it because there's so much competition. And like we were just saying, even when you do book something like a general hospital or something, and you're working for 3 years, that job's gonna end. And then what are you just back in the cattle call of auditioning again? So I think the key is as an artist is like, yes, keep auditioning and getting cast as stuff, hopefully, but
Yeah.
you also want to create your own stuff so that you have more control over this crazy career that we've chosen to be a part of.
Absolutely, it's a crazy world, and but it's all about the grind. It's all about the hustle. It's nonstop, and we do all this because we love it as well too. So it's interesting. But Robert, thank you so much for coming on Popternative, man. I really enjoyed chatting with you. We finally made it happen.
Yes, man. Thank you for having me on, dude. I'm sorry it took so long.
No, it's all good. So last 3 days is coming out, and it's an exciting time.
Yes, last 3 days is coming out November 13th. Go pre-order it now on iTunes, Apple. It's a hell of a movie. Super excited to finally share it with everybody. You can follow their Instagram at Last 3 Days. You can follow my Instagram at Robert Palmer Watkins. And yeah, hopefully a lot more projects to come.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for doing this, man. I really enjoyed it, and I really appreciate you taking the time.
Thank you, bro. We'll talk soon, all right?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, this has been Popternative, youtube.com/Popternative for previous episodes. And until next time, this is Robert Palmer Watkins and PD Beats signing off.
Thank you for tuning in to Popternative. Make sure to check out our past episodes of Popternative on YouTube. Be sure to like Popternative on Facebook and follow us on Twitter.
This has been an Autograph Communications production.